Hey guys, Tightrope here, and today we're taking a look at a few of the areas where the COH3 tactical map has improved over the one available in COH2, and then following that, 10 areas where the COH3 tactical map still needs to be improved. You can now repair damaged vehicles from the tactical map with your engineers, whether that be with right click or using the repair hotkey, which is by default on Z. You can set up the facing direction of team weapons with right click drag, and there's even a little progress bar for the setup timer. You can reinforce low model count squads from the tactical map, though with the addition of auto reinforce this isn't as important as it would have been to have in Company of Heroes 2. You can upgrade the weaponry on your units from the tactical map as well. You can even access building sub-menus to construct things like sandbags from the tactical map, with an arrow to show you where they are lining up. In fact, outside of selecting your battle group and then picking the various choices inside of there is almost nothing you are unable to do from the tactical map as long as you can remember all of the hotkeys. I think this is pretty cool. Even though it is better to do a lot of this stuff in-game, it's always nice to have the option. On top of that, there seems to be no lag when you open and close the tactical map in COH3, which could become a bit of a problem, especially in the late game in COH2. And when you are moving to different areas of the map from inside the tactical map, double left clicking to get to certain points, the camera is there instantaneously in COH3. Whereas if you do the same thing in COH2, you exit the tactical map and then the camera rapidly snaps to the new area. And in this 60 FPS video, it takes 10 frames before the camera is completely halted, which is around 0.17 of a second. So that extra delay as the camera moves into the new position in COH2 makes the tactical map feel much snappier in COH3. This is a really nice change. Now shifting gears into the areas that need improvement. The most important change is a bug fix, which causes me frustration every time I play. Just quickly how the tactical map should work, you can see the camera's current position with this white outline, and I want to control this rifleman, so I double left click on it. This exits the tactical map and the rifleman is now positioned center screen. Moving around the map like this is one of the main strengths of the tactical map. However, when I try to double left click the garrison in the center of the screen, the garrison gets selected, but we do not exit the tactical map and the camera does not shift positions. So garrisons functioning like other units when you double left click them is my number one change. The next issue makes it easy to lose track of my squads, often resulting in them getting wiped. In Company of Heroes 3, if my unit and the enemy unit are right next to each other, such as in a point-blank firefight, the enemy's unit icon can completely cover my unit's icon, making it so I can't see my unit's health bar whatsoever. And given that this is a close quarters engagement where units typically die quite quickly, losing track of my unit like this can be lethal. I believe what is happening here is that from the left spawn, my unit icons will always end up on the bottom, and from the right spawn, my unit icons will always end up on the top. However, this is not a good system whatsoever. I want my unit icons to always be on top of the enemies. In a game like Company of Heroes, where unit preservation is so important, you need to be able to see your unit's health bars at all times. And in Company of Heroes 2, no matter which spawn you played from, your unit's icons would always be on top of the enemies on the tactical map, so I'm really just asking for a return to that system. The next thing I'd like to see changed is the visual feedback when you give input commands on the tactical map. If I give a unit a movement command, there is a line showing where the unit is going to and a green dot at the end. If I give them an attack order, that green dot switches to become a red dot instead. And when you queue up commands with shift, the future commands are shown with a dotted line. And one of the nice things about Company of Heroes 3 is that if you reselect that unit later on, it will then show those commands, which means I'm not giving those same commands to the unit again just because I can't remember if I had already given them some commands. All of this is pretty good so far and generally an improvement over COH2. However, I really miss the animated command feedback from Company of Heroes 2. Say I'm queuing up a bunch of capture orders, which is very common to do from the tactical map. After each right click on a sector, there is an animation of a green triangle wedged into a circle spinning around, giving me feedback that my command was successful. However, in Company of Heroes 3, when you queue up a bunch of capture commands, there is no visual feedback they were successful, and I believe this is causing me to miss whenever I make an error when I queue up capture commands. The result of this is the squad runs to the capture point, but does not capture it and carries on to the next point in the queue. I believe what is happening is when I right click on a sector, I move my mouse ever so slightly, causing the command to change from being a capture command to a drag to set facing command. And this happens so quickly I don't get to see or don't notice the arrow from the right click drag command. And if this happens right on top of the sector's icon, the green dot showing this is a move command is hidden underneath the icon, so I am completely unaware of my mistake. But if I had visual feedback, I would be able to correct this mistake immediately. It wasn't even possible to give a right-click drag command from the tactical map in Company of Heroes 2. To prove this, I'm going to give a right-click drag command down from this point above the rear echelon. So they should run to this point, and once they get there, start, rotate and face downwards. If they don't, they keep facing the direction they were originally running. So this means if you come to a standard territory point, give a right-click drag command by accident, it still counts as a capture command. So this wasn't an issue back in Company of Heroes 2 because of its more limited tactical map functionality. And here are the animations in COH3 for attack and move/reverse. You do have the green and red dot in COH3 providing the same information, but I do like the animated effect. Another bit of visual feedback that would be nice to change are the white lines that indicate the command. At the moment they are just a dead straight line between the unit and the point of the command, but it would be nice if this showed the actual path the unit was going to take to get to that point instead, taking into account the obstacles on the map. The next thing I'd like to see addressed is an increase in size of the tactical map. I measured the size of the playing area of 4 different maps in Company of Heroes 3 and did the same in COH2 to compare the size. And here are the results of that measuring, with the average for COH3 coming out to 113,500 and the average for COH2 107,500. So the size of the map has actually increased slightly in Company of Heroes 3, even though at first glance that may not appear to be the case. But why can't it be even larger than that? First, let's discuss the area outside of the playing zone. The main purpose of this area is to provide some nice scenery so you are not having your immersion broken if you are playing at the edge of the map. And in Company of Heroes 2, you could see the planes flying around in this area. This would sometimes be useful to help dodge strafes and bombing runs coming in at a specific angle. You could see the flight path of the plane and try to dodge out to the side. However, in Company of Heroes 3, when planes are outside of the playable area, they vanish off the tactical map. This means these areas provide no benefit whatsoever when it comes to gameplay, and makes me question why they need to be shown on the tactical map. And with the recent set of changes to planes, these strafes always show their attack vector on the map anyway, further reducing the need of this zone outside of the playable area. So maybe they should be reduced or removed to increase the usable area. Now this impacts the minimap as well, so maybe there is some kind of technical reason why this isn't possible. If that is the case, there is quite a lot of extra space above and below the tactical map, so enlarge the tactical map to fill out that area a bit more. Getting one of these 2 changes to increase the map size would be really nice. And leaving the other in place would still leave a bit of a buffer for input mistakes if you are clicking near the edge of the screen, and so unit icons wouldn't disappear off the top of the screen. And since there is a decent gap between your unit's positioning dot and the icon above them, this will require a bit of extra space along the top edge. This separation of the unit and its icon on the tactical map allows you to see some extra information, such as the direction your vehicle is facing. Whereas in Company of Heroes 2, there was no separation between the unit and its icon, so you couldn't see your vehicle's facing direction, even though it was possible to see this on the minimap. So this is another improvement in the COH3 tactical map. Related to this is the size of the icons on the tactical map. I measured the area of an icon in Company of Heroes 3, which came out to 4,256. Doing the same measurement in COH2 comes out to around 2,500, a 68% increase in size. Selecting the icon increases the area to 5,066 in COH3, and selecting in COH2 increases the icon size to 3,272. And since you can select a unit on the tactical map by clicking on these protruding elements showing the unit's status, cover, and model count, so when I measured all of that stuff combined, it gave me a total area of 6,064 in Company of Heroes 3. Whereas in COH2, the unit's status and cover are more tucked away on the bottom, and the model count is inside of the card. So the same measurement is 4,138 in COH2. So let's say the icon size has increased by roughly 50%, going from Company of Heroes 2 to COH3. What this means is the tactical map now feels bloated. Even in 1v1s, when the army sizes start to increase, the unit icons are constantly overlapping each other, making it harder to select units and harder to see what is going on overall. And then scaling up to team games, the tactical map becomes basically unusable because of how cluttered it is. So I would like to see a reduction in these icon sizes. And combined with an increase in size of the tactical map, this should make it a lot more usable if you have a large army or in team games. The next change I'd like to see is the removal of some information I don't think should be present on the tactical map. So for this demonstration we have a Vet 3 Sherman here, and I didn't mention this in the last section about the icon sizes, but in COH3 there is a bit of separation between Vet 3 stars and the icon itself, whereas in COH2 they're tucked right on top. So it's another area where the icon's a bit bloated. But here we go, we're going to activate Hold Fire. And now we have this massive circle on the tactical map, which you can select the unit from. So this is going to cover up other units quite horribly. And then it just gets worse from there, because then we can activate Focus, Prioritize Vehicles. And there's another circle, then we're going to add HE rounds, that adds another one. Then we're going to put on Seek and Destroy, that adds another one. Then we're going to put on some repairs. And now look at this. The Sherman's icon's here, the Sherman's here, and look at all this like status effects. I think we just should not have all of this information. This is just excess. You know, it clutters up the map, makes it hard to select other units, hard to see enemies, and it's just not really necessary. You know, if I want to control these kind of factors, I can just close the tactical map and see them. I feel like this, all this kind of stuff showing up on the tactical map is excessive. Certainly, if they want to keep this kind of stuff up here, they need to make these way smaller, but I think they should just remove them altogether. Another area where I would consider to have information bloat is with troop transports. Here you can see I've got 2 riflemen inside of this half-track, and look at how much space this takes up on the tactical map. This is incredibly wide. It takes up such a large area. And it kind of displaces the unit's icon itself. That's quite far over here, but you can see the unit itself is over here, maybe more central to where the overall positioning is. But for me, at a glance, I would look at the icon and expect the transport to be here. But yeah, overall, to the best of my knowledge, units inside transports can't take damage at the moment in Company of Heroes 3, like even open top transports like the 250. Like, this is to the best of my knowledge. So actually having this information of the unit's health is not really that useful, because they're not going to be taking damage. So I think this is kind of bloated. You know, it kind of impacts buildings as well, but at least here the units inside the building can take damage and be able to click on them individually, maybe give them like a retreat command from the building. At least that has some utility. But yeah, for troop transports especially, there is really no value, and I feel like this is kind of misleading when it comes to the icon positioning. So maybe they could shrink this down or just remove it overall, at least for transports. Another object that I believe should not be on the tactical map is the demolition charge that can be planted by units such as the commandos. Not only does the button look terrible, but it is quite large and it gets triggered with one click instead of two. So it is very easy to accidentally detonate it. Oh, what the fuck? And there is some information that I would like to see be added to the tactical map. When using indirect fire weapons such as a mortar, if I activate the barrage, you can see there is a maximum range indicator circle with the yellow area. Doing the same from the tactical map, however, you get no such range indicators. There's also a circle. You can see the white circle inside of the yellow, roughly indicating the area that's going to get hit by the mortar, but from the tactical map, no such circle either. So, adding those indicators to the tactical map would be really nice to have. A change to the way the event queue system works alongside the tactical map. So having a look at the event list and the tactical map, which received some changes, the event list. So if you click on the alerts from this, it will snap the camera to that position, but it won't exit the tactical map. Even if you double click or triple click or spam clicks, by clicking on the events, you do not exit the tactical map. So I feel like that does limit its effectiveness. And there's also a bug going on at the moment where if I click on one of these events and then I exit the tactical map by pressing M, now I can't actually do anything. If you see, even hitting escape doesn't work, or tactical map, nothing. I have to click on the screen and then I can do stuff. So there's a bug going on here, which also impacts, say, if you go to the playlist and see what faction your opponent has or whatever, and then you escape out of that. Same issue.
No survivors.
It doesn't respond to keyboard commands until you click on the screen. So there's something funky going on. But yeah, the main thing, it will be nice to be able to exit the tactical map by clicking on the events. I think that would add a lot more useful functionality to the event list combined with the tactical map. The positioning of the controls that are available on the tactical map. We have these controls on the bottom left corner of the screen, exit tactical map or the various pings. But when they're positioned in the corner like this is a very long distance for your mouse to go, say, or center screen, selecting an alert, and then return to the map to use it. It's just such a long distance with them tucked in the corner like this. I believe in Company of Heroes 2, they were kind of built into the tactical map and kind of positioned around the outside of it, which is a nice touch. Not strictly necessary. Just moving these, closer in, further away from the edge, maybe to around here, would be perfectly acceptable. Same story when it comes to input mistakes. You bring your mouse down here rapidly. You could easily over scroll, and now you're moving the camera because they're right tucked in the corner like this. So moving these controls away from the bottom corner, bringing them, off to the side into a more relevant position would be a nice change. And finally, changes to the appearance of the tactical map. Personally, I don't really have too much of an issue with how the tactical map appears with this, background, this metallic circle that the map's kind of locked into. It does look a little bit low res. If you look there, kind of some jagged edges. Seems like it's been scaled up from a much smaller size, but I don't really care about that too much. Just a minor detail. But the edges of the sectors being these jagged lines here, this is really, really ugly. Impacts the mini-map as well, but not quite as noticeable when it's a small size, kind of smooths them out a bit. But when you blow it up to the tactical map size, these jagged sector edges, they are really ugly. So I hope something can be done to address that. So this is my wish list for the COH3 tactical map. Let me know in the comments below if you think I missed anything. And if you enjoyed this video, I hope you consider coming on board as a Patreon backer.